Okay, let's start. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this wake-up call. Today we'll have a look at how remote teams are managing complex projects such as we know in offshore wind. And who better can share this with us than Didi Gussinklo Ohmann from Oord Offshore Wind. She will share with us how to keep teams aligned and motivated in complex projects and what we can expect how this remote working will affect the offshore wind industry. Didi, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Ashley, for this introduction. Now, good morning, everybody, on this windy morning, literally. Today, I would like to share how my days look like and what's going on outside. So just a short introduction of myself. I'm now working for more than 20 years already for Van Oord. First 10 years working on projects all over the world on coastal protection, port extension, and land reclamation. And 10 years ago, I made the shift to the offshore wind. And here, with my work and in this period of transformation, I hope and I love to see that we can, all of us, contribute to a more sustainable world. And as you all know, we are in an ocean full of change, which brings plenty of opportunities. And how does my day look like? Now, after my run through the dunes and over the beach, that's the advantage of this period, as normally I live in Amsterdam, so no beach. I have my daily ops meetings with my colleagues at 8, and that's basically the kickoff of a whole day, team sessions, and alternated by phone calls. With the projects, we have our project review meetings also by teams. So per project, we assess what are the risks, what needs focus, the interfaces between the projects. But I have to say, these we already did via Teams, so we're quite used to that. And in this, over the last months, the project directors and myself, we hosted webinars to share on different topics with our colleagues on, for example, the Borssele project, but also on sustainability topics. Because we noticed, especially on the projects, a lot of things happening, and it's a good motivation for everybody. With one of my teams, we made vlogs on new sustainable business to inform and inspire our colleagues to think along and see how we can create new businesses in sustainability. What I noticed, we have our operations meeting with all the project directors on a bi-weekly basis. And as you probably also experienced, at a certain stage, there was a small dip. And even you don't see the people, you feel it. So I asked over the weekend to prepare a slide and ask them, do whatever you want with movies or with pictures or text to show, to share what makes you happy. And during the operation meeting, you start your update with that slide. And hopefully that makes all of us a little bit happy. Now, this was my slide. So the sunrise at the beach, my meet and greet with Highlanders and the fox in the early morning in the dunes, and the daffodils. So what we have, and I come to that, we have a lot of projects ongoing, but also in preparation phase, so almost ready to start. And before we start these projects, we do a lot of mock-ups for the cable pull-ins, also for the flange connections, testing termination, and we were very restricted with traveling, and also you want to avoid people coming too close to each other. So what we did is working with much smaller teams, made it quite intense for some of them, especially when we had to do the bolting tests, and using 3D cameras. So because you do it and to learn, and like, is everything indeed working as we planned in the design and preparation phase before we come offshore, but also to learn and to see how we can even optimize. And by using a 3D camera with all these mock-ups, all the other team members who couldn't join could still learn and see how we can do things differently. So that worked out fine, and that's something I would say a positive thing we will take along also for the future, in case we don't have to take these measurements anymore. I hope that period will come. As we couldn't visit, or normally I visit the projects and the yards and the vessels each week, but that's not possible anymore. So instead, regular phone calls to talk with the people, and online vessel inspections. With the offshore construction manager walking along. Sure, we have to remain connected, especially on the installation vessels. Some of you will know they really show great flexibility and commitment, because we had to ask them to stay much longer. Normally, and it depends on which function they have, they have turns of 2 to 4 weeks, and now I had to ask them all to stay 6 weeks rotation, and some even longer, because they couldn't travel home, like our Philippine colleagues. Nowadays, all the crew members and project crew are being tested before joining. And that all had to do that we have to make the risk for the people on board as little as possible. And if you change continuously, each time a new individual enters, signs on, it's a risk again for the vessel. So now we have block crew changes each 6 weeks, 2 weeks semi-quarantine, and then the vessel is basically safe. Now, and of course, the socials, the daily virtual coffee, here, who has the nicest mug? No, it was not me. In the evening with the project teams, and not all project teams did so, I have to say, but the pub quiz. Then you're wondering what's actually happening outside. Now, quite a lot. So pre-corona, or I make a typo, but pre-COVID, we just finished Noorder with the installation of all the cables. Deutsche Bucht was also just finished, so those were all ready to go. But Porcelain 1, 2 started this year and had to deal with all this thing. But I have to say, touch on wood, everything has gone exactly according to plan. We're now loading for another batch, and we're already halfway with installation of all the infield cables at Porcelain 1, 2. And that's the aim is to complete that in July. Porcelain 3, 4. There we have the balance of plant contract. Now, all foundations have been installed a couple of weeks ago, and Aeolus is now mobilizing for turbine installation. She will start with the turbine installation mid-May. And Nexus, which you just saw, she is working on both Porcelain 1, 2, and 3, 4 together to optimize the schedule for the clients. So also at Porcelain 3, 4, a significant part of the cables has been installed already, and our Dickett trenched the cables till depth. So we're now waiting for the Nexus to come back next Friday, or this Friday even, back to site to continue the cable installation. Now, and maybe some of you read it, Kavel 5, that's a plot where we do all kind of tests for innovations. And there we installed the slip joint. So different kind of connection between the MPTP. Now, and the installation went very successful. I had to say, beautiful weather. And here you see, because everybody wanted to join. It was such a big event, like first time in the industry. So with the client and our project director watched from a safe distance from the CTV. Now, Kriegersvlak, that's to start. So there we all had to do the mock-ups. And the Zwane is, as we speak, being towed to site. So she's expected to arrive tonight in the farm. And then we will start the foundation installation of Kriegersvlak after, of course, having the site being prepared. Now, in Friesland, I have to say Friesland probably, or I don't know if to pronounce it proper in Fries, but there in this summer we will start with the foundation installation, but the export cable installation on land is already progressing very well. And also the dredging work required for this project is for Nature Island is well on our way. So here we have full preparation, the fabrication of the foundations, the cable production, and also there all the factories and supply chain made it possible to still meet the time schedule. So that's quite impressive. Then Hollandse Kust Zuid, where we have to install the export cable. This summer, the first, and the summer after the next. Also still on schedule, but we had to do the trials in the beginning of this year. It was terrible weather, I can tell you, so it took a little bit longer than we hoped for. But there we tested our new piece of equipment, the deep ticket. Enormous big machine for trenching cables up to 6 meters. Now, and we could test her very successful. We used the MPI Adventure, one of our installation vessels, as the support. And now there we're really looking forward as it is a technical challenge, and I love these, to start the project in end of July. Now, and then Taiwan, for us, first time, for us, then I mean for us offshore wind, first time outside Europe. We will start a cable installation project for Ørsted. End of this year, we start with HCDs, and next year and the year after, all the infield and export cables will be installed. For me, it's a very well-known area, as I've been working in the Taichung before. But as for the wind, I think that there are nice steps that you see that the Dutch are now spreading their wings and bringing the knowledge also outside Europe. Now, and then last week announced Saint-Brieuc. Now, that's also quite a challenging project with the soil conditions over there, but there we will do, we schedule to perform trials this year with a template with drill. We have to do a lot of drilling before we can install the foundations. And then next year, the Aeolus will start with the pin pile installation, and the year after the jacket installation will take place. So here I have to say this is a project where we did incur quite some issues in the supply chain. as factories had to shut down. But we are, together with the supply chain, now accelerating again to get it on track, especially for the trials. So now, as you can see, a lot of things happening. And the positive thing is, I think that's also related because of all the countries find offshore wind still very important, and we have to continue. That you see that governments and supply chain, everybody makes it possible and go for it and find creative ways to make sure it's all happening. And then last, Robin Rick Landré, with our MPI vessels, that's for the O&M market, like the blade exchange, for example. We just finished this weekend and a small exchange again. So that's also has to continue, of course. Now, and then what about the prospects and tenders? Yeah, what we see in the dredging and in the oil and gas, there tenders are reducing, and due to different reasons, the lowering oil price and also indeed COVID has an effect on the whole economy, but in the wind, almost didn't notice it. Yeah, only in the US, it's all being postponed more, but that's not totally related to the COVID. It's more that in the different states, permits takes a little bit longer. But we don't experience less tenders on the market, and also not really shifts in tenders. So, as I said, we've now our first project in Asia, and our colleagues, or colleagues, I have to say, same. So in Asia we are now active, and hopefully US will follow soon. But having said that, also Europe remains busy in the coming years. So that's very promising, I would say. And it's also necessary to continue to achieve the targets we set all together. So coming to the end, what you've seen over the last period, and I think it's more clear now than ever. It's so important to creatively respond to change, and not only when there's COVID-19, but always, and see the opportunities and do it together, and where communication is key. Keep connected with everybody and think each time, with who can I connect to achieve what I want to achieve. And common action by stimulating initiatives of yourself, but also of others. And then I think we can all be successful in making this world a little bit more sustainable. So that's my wake-up call for all of you.
Okay, thank you very much, Didi. If there are any questions, please share with us through the chat or the Q&A button. I think it's very good to see that the offshore wind industry is still moving forward, and a lot of things are still going on. Do you think that the importance of using innovations in offshore wind projects will become more urgent in the coming period, looking at the energy transition? What do you think?
Now, it has always been very important. First of all, when I started 10 years ago, and some are already much longer even in the wind industry, but then we had to learn a lot. We still have to learn a lot, I have to say. And then we had to get the cost price down. And I think there, the whole industry has been very successful, even quicker than expected. But for that, you have to be innovative to do so. And so that was first, the reducing the price to make it a competitive energy source. But now you have different challenges again, different site conditions, what I said, like rocky bottoms, or in Asia, that typhoons and earthquakes, the bigger and bigger foundations and turbines. So there again, you have to be innovative to find ways to make it work. So I see that the projects, at least the projects we've got in hand, most of them are getting more and more complex with a lot of risks. And then you have to make sure that your technical solution is sound and to manage these properly. Okay. So yeah, innovation remains very important and key.
So we can say, if we're looking at a question from Karel Roose from Next Ocean, that it is better to implement innovations now, especially in these times?
No, not especially in these times. If you do, you then actually relate to the period we are in as we speak, or in general? Because I think innovation has been always very important and remains very important. So we have to keep renewing to remain successful. Even you can say, okay, in Asia and in USA, they don't have all the knowledge we are having in Europe yet, but that doesn't count because that goes quickly. So and there, as I said, the site conditions are challenging. So innovation has been important and remains very important.
Okay. I hopefully that will answer the Karel's question. You mentioned you had some delays due to the bad weather when testing the deep digger for the Hollandse Kust Zuid project. For us, and that's Next Ocean, it is always interesting to learn what was critical, or what was the critical step in the operation that caused the delay. Can you tell a bit more about this?
Yeah, there I had to say, of course, you take always a risk for the weather along, and on hindsight, you say, okay, was it so smart to schedule those trials in this period? In February, where it can be critical. No, you rather do it now. For example, now today it's also windy, but this is much better. But we connected it to when our deep digger was ready, and now we still have time to do some optimizations. What was most critical was the launching and recovery of the digger, and then the wind speeds to put her on the bottom. Does it answer the question, or?
Hopefully Karel can respond.
Yeah, and what I can explain, see, normally we make sure that with all the installations of the wind farms with our equipment, we do it such that we have very high workabilities, and that's also, I would say, part of the innovations over the last years, where in the past we worked mainly in the summer periods, or nowadays we work all year long. So for Nexus and Aeolus and all the support equipment and tools, we design it such that we can work up to high waves, winds, etc. For the deep digger, there the launch and recovery is only a few times, and we knew it took place in summer. So there, we knew on forehand that there is a limitation with the setup we chosen with the MPI Inventor combined with the deep ticket, because it's an enormous machine.
I hope you have time left for one question.
Yeah.
What is the outlook of the floating wind market based on what you've seen?
Yeah, now that's still in Japan, of course, we expected, but we don't see it yet so much. Yeah, of course, all the piloting and but no, it's still mainly the foundations we know, and but we are of course following it and looking into it, and I hope it will work. And there are a lot of different concepts, but all the tenders we're getting, it's a little floating yet, but it will come eventually.
Okay. I think we're going to wrap it up. I think it's time. So I want to thank you for your presentation, for sharing your story with us, and yeah, have a good day, and hopefully until next time.
Yeah, it was great pleasure. I hope everybody's woken up by now. And now thank you for listening in, and have a nice and lovely day.
Okay, same to you.
Okay, bye-bye.